People, what's the darkest, most disturbing secret you swore you'd never reveal, until today? I seduced a teacher in senior year and then blackmailed him into giving me good grades. This happened a long time ago, and I still think about it and feel terrible, even though I'm in my late 30s now. In high school, especially during my senior year, I was the popular goth girl trying to be like some kind of 90s Angelina Jolie, a femme fatale. I slept around a lot, especially that year, and I tried to be with as many guys as I could. I was 18 to 19, I was held back a year, and legally old enough to be with older guys. There was this math teacher. He was really hot. He was young, maybe around 28, with a handsome, rough look, short curly hair, and a stubble beard. He was charming, and I could tell all the girls in the class were into him. He biked to work after going to the gym, and on hot days, his white shirt would stick to his body, becoming see-through, and we'd all talk about how hot he looked. I thought he was a goal to reach, and I made it my mission to get him to sleep with me. I flirted with him openly. After class, when it was just the two of us in the room, I would make it obvious. He seemed awkward, constantly checking if the next class was coming in, as if he didn't want anyone to see me flirting with him. At first, I kissed him, but he pulled back and rejected it. I laughed it off and kept pushing. A few weeks later, I kissed him again, and this time he kissed back. I invited him to meet me by the lake, and although he looked surprised, he didn't agree to it outright. He didn't show up, so I waited for an hour. The next class, I kissed him again, and this time, he came and we did it in the park. It was good, but I could tell he felt deeply uncomfortable afterward. A week later, I saw him in the parking lot and asked if he wanted to come to my house while my parents were out. He came, and we banged again, this time in my bed, and he stayed longer. He seemed to warm up to it. We did it again a few days later. Eventually, it stopped, but I still kept talking to him. I asked about my grades since I was failing the class. I never said it outright, but I implied that he should give me good grades because we hooked up. The worst part of all of this is when I told him, because we hooked up, you have to give me good grades, and implied that I might tell someone if he didn't. I deeply regret that moment. At the time, I tried to act like I was some sort of seductress, but inside, I felt so insecure and really regretted pressuring him. I liked him. He was a nice, charming guy, and I never wanted to cause him trouble. He gave me an A-. I know I didn't deserve it. After that, I barely even spoke to him. Now, I can't stop thinking about how I manipulated him and pressured him, how I acted tough when all I wanted to do was apologize. I know nothing bad happened in the end. He became a professor, and I went off to college in New York City, but it still haunts me. I feel horrible every time I think about how I treated him. Before we continue, do us a quick favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. My boyfriend cheated on me, so I exacted revenge by creating fake Facebook profile to lure him. I'm not proud of what I did, and I'm fully aware that karma will probably come back to get me. I'm prepared for it. I feel embarrassed that someone like me, who's been somewhat successful, could stoop to something so petty and childish. I'm 26, by the way. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Here's the background. My ex and I were together for about a year in a long-distance relationship where he lived about 3 hours away. I found out from his sister that he'd been talking to other women while we were still together. When I confronted him, he denied it, claiming I was the only one on his mind, and that his sister didn't know what she was talking about. I took his side because I loved him. 3 weeks ago, I found out from a mutual friend that he had been seeing and sleeping with another girl in his town. I confronted him about it, and he turned everything on me, saying it was hard for him to stay faithful while I was so far away and that I neglected him. This was absurd because I was the one who drove to see him every other weekend when I had the money, and we talked daily. He also said I didn't want him to live with me, which was true because I didn't want to take care of a grown man. He said he loved me and wanted to make it work, but then dropped all contact the next day. I was heartbroken, and my friends said that the girl he was with was just some easy, promiscuous girl, and that they were probably already in a relationship before we even had that conversation. 2 weeks ago, still reeling from the pain, I reactivated my Facebook and went through my ex's and the girl's profiles. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. What I found were months of embarrassing selfies from her in barely their clothes and pictures that screamed insecurity. That's when I did something I deeply regret. I created a fake Facebook profile of a handsome guy, using a picture I found online, and pretended to be someone who used to go to school with her. I quickly made friends with all her friends, built a fake following, and reached out to her. She was ridiculously open, even sending me revealing pictures without hesitation. After a few days of chatting, she started venting about my ex, and I told her I wanted to meet up. I told her I'd show her what it's like to be with a real man. Meanwhile, my ex started texting me, saying it was a mistake. I asked if he and the girl had broken up, and he said yes, even though it was clear they hadn't. I didn't feel heartbroken. I knew the truth, but I pretended that I still loved him and that I wanted him to move in with me. He sounded happy and said he was going to quit his job that day. Later, he texted me saying he had just left the girl with no notice. The revenge. I posted everything, our conversations, pictures, and videos, on the fake Facebook account and tagged her so my ex would see. I sat back and watched. By the time I deactivated the account, I had 53 likes and 82 messages. The girl's friends and family saw it, and my ex saw it too. Almost immediately, he texted me saying how much he missed me, how he couldn't wait to be with me, and didn't mention anything about the girl. When Friday came, he said he was on his way to my apartment. He didn't know where I lived because I had recently moved, so I told him to meet me at a CVS nearby. He said he was low on gas, and I agreed to help him fill it once he got there. When he got to the CVS, he texted asking where I was, and I ignored him. He called several times, and I let it ring once on purpose, so he knew I sent it to voicemail. 2 hours later, he was stranded at another CVS with no gas, still texting me. I just took an Ambien and went to sleep. Saturday morning, I woke up to 37 text messages, 28 missed calls, and 7 voicemails. He had called his mom to come pick him up. His sister messaged me, saying he came home crying, and since his mom already knew what happened, she wasn't sympathetic at all. His sister actually said I was a badass and deserved better than him. I know I acted on impulse, and I probably destroyed this girl's life in the process. Part of me wants to reactivate the fake account to apologize, but part of me doesn't. She knew he had a girlfriend when she slept with him. I know this sounds crazy, but I still have feelings for my ex. I doubt he'll ever forgive me since now everyone knows his business, but I also feel relieved that I destroyed any chance of reconciliation because it was never going to work. I just needed to let this out. Story 3. Stole from my dead grandfather, and it caused family war. A few years ago, we found out that my grandfather had cheated on my grandmother and had a child. This happened a long time ago, and the child, now my youngest uncle, is probably in his 20s. But no one in my family wants to acknowledge him or meet him. My 2 aunts, who basically run everything in the family, insist that he's not really part of us. They call his mother and blame him for my grandmother's death, claiming she died from a broken heart after finding out. To them, he's the reason she's gone. But I know that, in recent years, my grandfather secretly started emailing and occasionally meeting with him. He only told me about it because he needed help setting up an email account, and because I could drive him to meet his son. I feel guilty about keeping it a secret, but at the same time, it's not my uncle's fault that my grandfather cheated. It feels wrong to hold it against him. When my grandfather got sick, my aunts refused to let my uncle see him. He passed away without ever having that final moment with his son. My mom and my other uncle tried to fight it, but one of my aunts had power of attorney and controlled everything, with the other aunt fully backing her. Then, there was this antique, a family heirloom that had been passed down for generations. My grandfather wanted my youngest uncle to have it as a way of saying, "You're part of this family." My mom and other uncle were hurt by it, but they accepted his decision. My aunts, though, refused. To them, that item had to stay in the family, and in their eyes, my uncle wasn't family. On top of that, they didn't let anyone in my grandfather's house while he was sick, convinced that we would steal things. But I knew how to get in. One day, I skipped class, climbed through the back window, took the antique, and hid it in my room. After my grandfather passed, my aunts went to his house to set things in order, which I'm sure just meant dividing up his belongings. When they realized the antique was gone, they were furious. They immediately blamed my mom and both my uncles, but only my aunts had the keys, and everyone else had been at work or with my grandfather at the hospital. That's when everything exploded. They started blaming each other, and it turned into a huge fight. Lawyers got involved. The aunt with power of attorney tried to take all of my grandfather's money and cut everyone else out. My mom didn't want the money, but my older uncle was so angry that he insisted they fight for it. Not because he wanted it, but just to keep my aunts from taking everything. He told my mom she could donate it if she truly didn't want it. Now it's a full-blown war. There are angry emails, legal battles, and my mom and older uncle are the only two still talking to each other. My mom is so stressed that it's starting to make her sick. And I still have the stolen antique. I want to give it to my youngest uncle, just like my grandfather wanted. But I wonder if sneaking it back into the house, hidden somewhere for my aunts to find, would stop the fighting and maybe help my mom feel better. I think my uncle deserves it. Should I just mail it to him? Deliver it by hand? Should I write him a letter, talk to him in person, or send it anonymously? And to make matters worse, my aunt filed a police report over the stolen item. So if my uncle or I get caught with it, we could be in serious trouble. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now it's all spiraling out of control. I wish I'd never taken it. Story 4. I stole $45,000 from my former employer and think I am morally justified. I saw other posts about people taking money from tills and thought, I could do better than that. So, here's something no one knows. I used to work for a bank, not expecting much sympathy for them. I won't say which one or where, but I was there for several years. Toward the end, my role was basically redundant, but instead of paying me out, they refused and tried to bully me into quitting. I already had mental health struggles, and this pushed me into a breakdown. I used up all my sick leave, but when I requested more, they denied it. I got the union involved, but they were useless. Eventually, I negotiated some leave entitlements and a small payout, around $30,000, on the condition that I wouldn't sue. This was about $45,000, less than what I should have received if they had just given me a proper redundancy package. But at the time, I wasn't in the right mental state or had the support to fight back, even though I had a strong legal case. When you're in a dark place, your thinking gets erratic, maybe even a little destructive. Since I had worked in credit, fraud, and collections, I knew exactly where the holes in the system were. A few phony applications later, I estimate I pulled out about $45,000, not including costs. I won't go into details, but the method was very specific to that bank. The catch was that I couldn't take the money as cash, so I set up a business to convert products into cash. I made a few mistakes along the way, but I also knew financial crime is rarely investigated. I was careful to ensure nothing linked the applications together, so they wouldn't even realize it was one person behind it. Best part, it made me genuinely happy. No guilt, no regrets. Honestly, I think I went pretty easy on them. Story 5. I did it with my 40-year-old neighbor when I was 19. I got pregnant and had his kid and never told him. It started when I was 19, right after I moved to London from the US for university. Technically, I was born in the UK, so I had citizenship, but everything still felt new. Not long after settling in, I met my neighbor, a guy I ran into often. He was attractive. I'd seen him shirtless through his window a few times, muscular, masculine, and sexy. I flirted with him a lot, but he always resisted. He was married. At the time, I didn't care. Looking back now, I feel awful about it, but back then, let's just say I had a bit of a bad girl phase. One night, I talked to him for a really long time. We didn't even flirt, we just talked. Then I invited him into my apartment, and one thing led to another, and we did it. This time was different. It was passionate and amazing and lasted a long time. He was so good. We kept seeing each other after that. I just couldn't resist him. For a few months, we were meeting up constantly, sometimes more than 5 times a week. I was completely drawn to him. He was everything I was attracted to, muscular, hairy, and fit almost every fantasy I had. Then I found out I was pregnant. We had always used protection, so I had no idea how it happened. I had only been with one other person, and we had protection too. I figured maybe something went wrong. Maybe the rubber broke without me realizing it. Not long after I told him, he said we had to end things. He told me he wanted to work things out with his wife and stop cheating altogether. Apparently, I hadn't been the only one. He had been unfaithful with multiple people, and his wife knew. Now he wanted to change, to win her back. He asked me not to interfere with that. I was stunned. I was carrying his child, and he was asking me to just step aside. I had no idea what to say. At first, I decided I would just end the pregnancy and move on. But when the time came, I couldn't do it. Something in me changed. I wanted the baby. Call me reckless or naive, but I dropped out of university, moved back to the US, and had my child. I never told anyone who the father was. I didn't need financial support. my parents were well off, and taking care of my child was nothing to them. So, I settled into the suburbs and focused on raising my son. As strange as it sounds, I knew he loved his wife. He always talked about how amazing she was, how much he adored her. I never understood how someone could cheat and still claim to be deeply in love. But to this day, I see him on Facebook, posting happy pictures of his life, his wife, his 2 kids, their vacations, his thriving career. Well, 3 kids if you count mine. But he doesn't know about mine. Now my son is 13, and I love him more than anything. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and I hope to marry him one day. He stepped into a fatherly role, though in many ways, my own dad has been the real father figure. After my parents divorced, my dad moved into the apartment just 1 floor above me, so he was always around for my son. Sometimes, I wonder how things would have turned out if I had told his father about the pregnancy. Would his life still look the same? Would he still have his 2 kids? Would he have ever rekindled things with his wife? Would he have quit drinking? Everything seems to have worked out, for him, for me, for my son. But I can't help but feel a little conflicted. My child may never know who his biological father is. Maybe I'll tell him one day, when the time is right. For now, he only knows that his father was someone I had a relationship with in London, and that I don't know where he is. He doesn't press for more details. He's an incredible kid, smart, charming, and somehow already 6 feet tall at 13. His father was 6 feet 5 inches, so I guess that checks out. I'm beyond proud of him. I know the absence of his father sometimes confuses him, but my dad has always been there, and he loves my boyfriend, too. They spend a lot of time together, and for now, that's enough. Story 6. I used to be a sugar baby. At 22, I became curious about sugaring, but it wasn't until about a year later that I seriously considered it. The idea of being financially supported and indulging in a few luxuries was tempting, especially since I was graduating college with a decent amount of student loan debt and a job that barely paid the bills. Plus, the thought of being with an older man was something that intrigued me. During my early college years, I had even worked as a part-time exotic dancer on weekends, playing into the broke college student stereotype, which was the truth. And it taught me how to interact with men who were much older than me. It matured me quickly, and I realized I was genuinely attracted to older men. With this self-awareness and a little liquid courage from a bottle of wine, I decided to give up on the idea of finding a real relationship. I figured I didn't have the time or patience for it, and I wanted to be spoiled a little. So, I created a profile on a sugar match site and started the search. Within a few weeks, I arranged a date with a divorced man who lived a few hours away. He didn't want anything traditional either, just someone to see once or twice a month. We spent days texting, flirting, and discussing what we both wanted from the arrangement. Finally, we set a weekend to meet in person. Our first date was perfect. He booked the best hotel in town for the weekend, and we met at a high-end bistro for drinks. I was nervous, worried the reality wouldn't match my expectations, but he was even better than I'd imagined. At 50, he was handsome, charming, and funny. Later that night, he told me I was the sexiest woman he'd ever been with. It felt great. Over the weekend, he spent over $1,000 on food, drinks, and the hotel alone. I left that Sunday night with a gift basket that included my favorite perfume, a luxury bottle of wine, a well-loaded gift card to a fashionable clothing store, 3 sets of lingerie, and $500 in cash. Our arrangement lasted for about 6 months the first time around. We spent 1 or 2 weekends a month together, depending on his work schedule. He'd often travel to my city, though a few times he arranged for me to visit him. Twice, he even surprised me with oceanside mini vacations when it got cold. I never paid for anything, and on top of the gifts, he made sure to deposit $1,000 into my bank account at the start of each month to cover rent, utilities, and groceries. Having that financial stability was such a relief. It freed me up to focus on my career and hobbies that I could never have afforded before. I never told my friends about this, even those I considered family. I liked keeping it our little secret. The money and gifts were nice, but I started to genuinely care for him. He taught me so much about my career, success, and life in general. Looking back, we must have looked strange together in public, but I didn't care. We were the couple having the most fun everywhere we went. Our 6-month arrangement was the first of several. Sometimes we'd take breaks when personal things got in the way. We rarely questioned each other, just understood that when the time was right, we'd meet again. Then I fell in love. And that's when I knew it was time to move on. I had met the man who would later become my fiancé, and I realized I wanted something more grounded. I was honest with my sugar daddy, and he understood. He told me gently over the phone, as I fought back tears, that I deserved to find someone to love. We parted ways on good terms, expressing how much fun we'd had together. It's been a while since that night, and sometimes I do miss the adventures we had. I hope he's found someone new who appreciates him, and I hope she knows how lucky she is. I don't regret the 2 years we spent together because I learned a lot about myself, and I'm now mostly debt-free. Writing this story feels like I'm letting go of that chapter of my life. I don't regret the experiences I had. They helped me become a more well-rounded, mature person. As for my fiancé, he came into my life at the perfect time, and I wouldn't trade what we have for anything. I feel like all the wild experiences I had in my younger years helped me understand what I wanted in a relationship, and now I have that with him. I'm grateful for all of it. P.S. I'm sure some people will judge me, but I'm content with the decisions I made, and my student loans almost being paid off in 2 years proves it. And to clarify, I never went without protection, and I was tested when my current fiancé and I got serious. I ended things with my sugar relationship as soon as I felt something real with my fiancé. Some things just matter more. Story 7. I let myself get essayed for money by another man. After graduating in June, I landed a great job in a distant city. Excited for a fresh start, I packed up and moved into a one-room apartment. One of my neighbors was an older man. I'll call him Jay. He was always friendly, much older, and openly gay. He would sometimes make moves on me, but I always turned him down because that just wasn't me. Jay was into some adventurous stuff. I knew that much. The loud banging sessions, the chains, the leather. I could hear and see it all through the thin walls. Then in August, I got laid off out of nowhere. One day I was financially stable, the next I was completely broke. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find another job. The bills piled up, and my lease was expensive. The stress was suffocating. About a week ago, I was outside drunk and miserable, smoking alone when Jay came out and joined me. He asked what was wrong, and I told him everything. How I was struggling, how I couldn't afford to live here anymore. He listened, then invited me into his apartment for another drink. I went. As we sat there, he made an offer. He'd give me $2,000 if I fooled around with him. I immediately said no. But then, he left the room and came back, with cash. My heart pounded as I stared at it. It felt like time had stopped. Then he left again and returned with 3 pills. He told me they would help. I didn't think, I just took them. And when I think about that moment now, my stomach twists. We sat in silence, drinking, until suddenly I got dizzy. Everything blurred. I remember puking into a bucket, and then nothing. When I woke up, the sun was up. My head was splitting open, and I was bare in bed. Not just with Jay, but with another man I didn't know. I didn't need to ask what had happened. My body told me. My stomach churned. I felt disgusting. Sticky. Violated. Jay stirred beside me. I bolted. In his living room, there were empty bottles. Another man lay passed out on the couch. I grabbed my clothes and ran back to my apartment, locked the door, and threw up until there was nothing left. Then I sat in the shower and cried for an hour until the water ran cold. Later that day, I found an envelope slipped under my door. $2,500 inside. I wanted to throw up all over again. I haven't left my apartment since. I feel hollow. Numb. Lost. I don't know why I did this. Story 8. I'm infatuated with my mother-in-law. I'm married to an amazing woman. We have a great intimate life. I'm not deprived in any way. But for some reason, I'm obsessed with my wife's mom. She's not conventionally hot, but she's undeniably attractive. About 5 years ago, she got a boob job. At first, she seemed unsure about her new body, but now she owns it. She's tiny, about 5 feet 1 inch, and keeps herself in incredible shape. She walks around the house in a bikini like it's nothing. She doesn't have to work, so she spends a lot of time at home, completely at ease in her skin. And she's naive, almost airhead at times. The thing that drives me crazy? She never wears an inner under thin shirts. The tip of her jugs are always visible, teasing me in ways I know they shouldn't. And I can't stop thinking about them. I fantasize about her constantly. I even think of her instead of my wife during my private sessions. Sometimes, when my wife gives me blowy, my mind swaps her out for her mom. I keep imagining scenarios, showing up at her place, seeing her fresh out of the shower, her making the first move. It's consuming me, but I can't say a word. If my wife knew, it would devastate her. So what do I do? Just keep fantasizing about her until she ages out of my attraction? That could take years. Story 9. My sister-in-law's mother and I hook up in secret. It all started before my brother married his current wife. One night, over a few beers, we were just talking when he mentioned that his soon-to-be mother-in-law was getting a divorce. Then he joked that I should lay down some pipe. His fiancée hated her stepdad, said he was a complete asshole, so she was all for the idea too. The following weekend, I was invited over and met her for the first time. Sparks flew immediately. She was a total cougar, confident, sexy, and clearly interested. Turns out she hadn't been with anyone in over 5 years. That night, we hooked up. From that moment on, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. For months leading up to the wedding, we found every possible way to be together. Every day at lunch, she'd show up at my job, and we'd do it in my car. Every single day. At the wedding reception, we even snuck out to take care of business. My brother and sister-in-law knew what was going on, but they kept their mouths shut. No one else had a clue. Then, things nearly exploded. One day, her youngest son, 18, grabbed her phone, and it opened to a text, a picture of a guy's dong. He flipped out. Thankfully, she had my number saved under a woman's name. Eventually, my sister-in-law found out that her little brother had seen something on their mom's phone. She didn't see the picture herself, but she knew. She put 2 and 2 together and confronted me, asking me to stop seeing her mom. I told her I would. But honestly, we never stopped. For over 5 years now, we've been keeping this secret. We've had other relationships in between, but every time those ended, we just pick up right where we left off. It's like we can't stay away from each other. At family events, no one suspects a thing. But the moment we're alone, it's game on. She comes over at least 3 times a week, telling her family she's grabbing drinks with friends, when in reality, she's coming to me. I don't know what to do. She's funny, smart, adventurous, beautiful, just an all-around incredible person. We know we can't date, and we know we can't let this secret out. But for some reason, we just can't stop. Story 10. I slept with my brother-in-law, and I'm in love with him. To keep it brief, my 27-year-old brother-in-law moved in with us last winter. He and our daughter, Hannah, let's call her that, quickly formed a strong bond. Every time she saw her uncle, she lit up with joy. It was my first time really getting to know him, and through our conversations, I learned so much about my husband's childhood, things my husband had never even mentioned. We became good friends, genuinely enjoying each other's company. Whenever my husband and I argued, he would take my side, trying to make him see reason. He stood up for me countless times, making me feel protected in a way I hadn't before. Everything changed 2 months ago when my husband left for a 3-month work trip to Italy. One morning, I woke up early to prepare breakfast before Hannah woke up, but when I came downstairs, I found Ian in the kitchen. He had already made breakfast for me, pancakes, my favorite, which I had only mentioned once, fresh juice, and everything perfectly set. The thoughtful gesture made me so happy. He asked me to sit, and we had breakfast together. Over time, we began doing small things to make each other happy. We bonded over our shared love for The Walking Dead, The Vampire Diaries, and How I Met Your Mother, spending hours enjoying each other's company. The 3 of us, Hannah, Ian, and I, went on picnics together. I remember one particular moment when a stranger commented on how adorable our little family was, saying Hannah looked just like her father. She had no idea Ian was actually her uncle, and to my surprise, he didn't correct her. He simply smiled and thanked her. That was the moment I realized I had fallen for him. When Jackson called to say his work trip was extended by another month, I felt a deep sense of happiness rather than disappointment. I wanted as much time with Ian as possible. We would spend entire nights talking, reminiscing, and sharing stories, while our days were filled with either catching up on sleep or taking care of Hannah. Over time, I began to sense that his feelings mirrored my own. He would occasionally reach for my hand, offering comfort in small but meaningful ways. One evening, when I was in tears, he gently kissed my forehead and then my cheeks, reassuring me without saying a word. I'll never forget when he told me, "If I had a wife as gorgeous as you, I would never treat her the way Jackson does." His words stayed with me, making me see our connection in a new light. Okay, so one night, after Hannah was asleep, we decided to watch a movie. The movie was intense with frequent intimate scenes, and we could feel the tension rising between us. Then he paused the movie and asked me if I am comfortable. I nodded my head, and he came near me, and we just made out. And before I knew it, he was banging me hard. We did it 3 times that night. I was the best night ever. We've been doing it every day, completely consumed by our feelings for each other. He wants me to choose between him and his brother, but the guilt of what I've done weighs heavily on me. My husband is the father of my child. How could I do this to my family? Yet, my heart is torn because I'm in love. I don't know what to do. Story 11. I sabotaged my father's marriage because he cheated on my mother. When I was 4 years old, my parents divorced because my father cheated on my mother. Their divorce was messy, filled with arguments and tension. Eventually, they settled, and my father moved on by marrying his mistress, whom I'll call E to respect her privacy. My father seemed happy with her, and my sister and I gained a stepbrother and 2 stepsisters. We all got along well in the beginning. But 2 years later, things began to change. E's behavior shifted, and so did my father's. My sister and I could rarely visit our father anymore, despite him claiming he was working. When we did visit, we weren't allowed to eat at the table, which I, at 7 years old, didn't understand. Over time, my father became more distant. He no longer wished me a happy birthday or showed up for important moments, like when I learned to ride my bike or when I had school plays. By the time I was 9, we could only see him for 4 days a month, and we had to sleep in separate rooms. One weekend, when I accidentally broke a glass, he became furious. She sent me upstairs, made me remove my socks, and then showed me a shard of glass, telling me it was what I deserved for being clumsy. To my horror, she pushed the glass into the sole of my foot. I screamed and cried, trying to pull my leg away, but then I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. He was helping her do this. I don't remember much after that. He also fought with my sister, pulling her by her hair and dragging her to the basement. After these incidents, along with a lot of verbal abuse, we decided to cut ties and tell our mother what had happened. We hadn't told her before because, well, he was our father. My mother knew it was serious abuse, but felt too scared to go to the police, given that my father had previously threatened her with violence. 5 years later, I was 14 and a freshman at the same school as my former step-siblings. Seeing them again brought back painful memories. My 2 stepsisters had become bullies, and many people disliked them. A few friends and I decided to retaliate by secretly putting small bags of marijuana in their backpacks. This caused a huge fight at their home, and my father and he divorced soon after. Following that, he fell into severe financial trouble, and my father became an alcoholic. 2 weeks ago, he was arrested for assault. He has allegedly become a cash-only companion, and my former step-siblings were placed into protective custody. I feel like everything that happened is my fault. It was my idea to put the marijuana in their bags, even though they hadn't done anything to me. I feel like I ruined their lives and set my father and stepmother on a destructive path. Yet, strangely, I don't feel any remorse. My sister has struggled with an eating disorder after all the verbal abuse from me, and she's been hospitalized twice. I even attempted to off myself once because of my orientation, believing I was an abomination after enduring E's conservative Christian rants. Now my sister and I are doing better, though we still carry the trauma. We've thought about filing a lawsuit, but because we were so young at the time, legal advisors have suggested we just move on. Now I'm stuck in a moral dilemma. I did something that caused terrible consequences, but I don't feel any remorse. Does this make me a psychopath? Story 12. My girlfriend cheated, and I used that as permission to cheat on girls for years. When I was 19, my girlfriend of 1 year, let's call her Kate, cheated on me. She wasn't my first girlfriend, but at the time, it was my longest relationship, and I truly believed I loved her. Finding out about her betrayal shattered me. Before that, I had been a hopeless romantic, treating relationships like something out of a fairy tale. I went out of my way to make Kate feel special, believing that love was about devotion and loyalty. But then, she threw it all away for someone else. Something inside me changed after that. I started to believe that if even my best effort wasn't enough to keep someone faithful, then maybe nothing was. Maybe everyone cheated. Maybe monogamy was just a lie we told ourselves. In my anger, I made choices I'm not proud of. I hooked up with Kate's best friend just to get under her skin. I reconnected with my ex, Lisa, someone Kate despised, just to make her jealous. Eventually, at a New Year's party, Kate came crawling back with apologies. What she didn't know was that I had already been with Lisa earlier that same night. But I took Kate back anyway. I told myself it was about winning, but deep down, I never truly forgave her. For the next year, we stayed together, but I cheated on her constantly. I'm sure she did the same. Eventually, she cheated again, and that was the final straw. I moved on, starting a relationship with Jen. But by then, I had lost faith in the idea of commitment. I cheated on Jen with Kate. I cheated on Jen with Lisa. And somehow, no matter how much time passed, Kate and I always found our way back to each other. Even when she moved on with a new boyfriend, Ryan, I was still in the picture. I remember one time, Ryan showed up outside her apartment while I was with her, saw my car, and lost it, screaming, threatening us through the window. She went outside to calm him down, then came back inside, and we picked up right where we left off. They didn't even break up after that. But eventually they did. Probably because of me. I didn't care. Looking back, my feelings toward Kate were complicated. Part of me hated her for what she had done to me. Part of me still loved her. Part of me loved the power I had over her. And part of me just wanted to hurt her the way she had hurt me. I regret how I treated Lisa the most. She genuinely cared about me, maybe even loved me, and I used that against her. She deserved better. We last hooked up over a decade ago, but somehow we stayed friends. In fact, when I got married, she was one of my wife's bridesmaids. As for Jen, I have regrets there too. But the truth is, she wasn't much different from me. After we broke up, even when I was with someone new, she would still call me whenever she wanted. She eventually cut ties completely, blocking me on everything. I don't know where she ended up, and I don't blame her for wanting nothing to do with me. Kate and I eventually drifted apart. Now, we're just acquaintances. We still have each other on Facebook, and she'll comment on my posts from time to time. Her sister lives near me, so we occasionally run into each other at the store. It took me years to let go of the bitterness. I've been with my wife for almost 12 years now, and I've never cheated on her, aside from what we've agreed upon in our ethically non-monogamous relationship. But before her, I can't say the same. I cheated in almost every other relationship I had. Looking back, I can see how much my pain and resentment shaped my choices. I let betrayal turn me into someone I'm not proud of. But I've grown since then, and I've learned that real love, the kind worth having, is built on honesty, not revenge. Story 13. I helped a girl cheat on her boyfriend while he sat at home waiting for her, and I have no regrets. A few years back in high school, I met a new girl in town. She was cute, and I was definitely interested at first, but I was already in a solid relationship with a great girl, so I didn't think much of it. We were just acquaintances, exchanging the occasional greeting in the hallways, or during the one class we had together. Fast forward to about 6 months ago. That same girl now had a 2-year-old and was still with the father. Meanwhile, I had just gone through a rough breakup. One day, she left a flirty comment on one of my posts, and naturally, I responded. We started talking, and it quickly became clear she wasn't happy in her relationship. She vented to me a lot, which wasn't a big deal. I did the same. After hanging out a few times, I got the sense that she wanted something more, so I made a move. She shut me down immediately, so I backed off and stayed in the friend zone. About a week later, she told me outright that she hated her boyfriend and wished she could be with me instead. I told her it was too complicated and wouldn't work. I moved on and wished her well. Another week passed, and out of nowhere, she texted me, straight up asking if we could have some private time. Seriously, who does that? I was in a bad place, and honestly, I just thought, why not? That night, I picked her up from her place. Before we left, I actually met her boyfriend and shook his hand. She told him we were just going for coffee and that she needed a break from the baby. Then we went out, made out for a bit, and ended up banging. First in the back of my car, then in some woods. And it wasn't even night, it was late afternoon. After that, we barely talked. Fast forward 3 months, and she's now engaged to the same guy. Do I feel bad about it? Not really. No regrets. Story 14. Accidentally slept with brother's girlfriend and cheated on wife. This past New Year's Eve, my younger brother came to town with his girlfriend to celebrate. It was my first time meeting her, a pretty 19-year-old blonde. They had been dating for a few months. He's 23, I'm 28. The 4 of us, my wife included, went out partying, got pretty wasted, and took a cab back to our house. I was beyond drunk, barely able to function. After throwing up, I cleaned up and passed out in bed. Sometime around 5 a.m., I woke up feeling warm, spooning with what I thought was my wife. Still half asleep and caught up in the moment, I reached down, pulled her panties aside, and started doing it with her. We have an understanding about wake-up sessions, so this wasn't unusual. But something felt different. She was tighter, smoother, something I couldn't quite describe. I moved slowly, enjoying the sensation, until she started pushing back against me and murmured, "That feels so good." That voice wasn't my wife's. My heart pounded as I tried to focus through my drunken haze. I looked down and saw blonde hair. My wife is a brunette. Panicked, I asked, "What are you doing in my bed?" She just smirked and whispered, "What does it look like?" before grinding against me again. I should have stopped. I should have pulled away immediately. But in my intoxicated, confused, and aroused state, I didn't. Instead, I let it happen. She climbed on top of me, kissed me, and I kissed her back. I flipped her over, took her from behind, and we both finished. When it was over, I sat there in shock. I can't believe this just happened. I'm married. She simply shrugged and said, "I won't tell." Then she got up, slipped out of the room, and went back to where my brother was sleeping. I lay there for a moment before getting up and heading downstairs. I found my wife asleep on the couch and woke her up, asking why she wasn't in bed. She told me she had been, until my brother drunkenly passed out there next to me, so she left to sleep on the couch instead. Later that day, my brother and his girlfriend got up around noon and left. Since then, I haven't been able to shake this overwhelming feeling of guilt and confusion. I feel like I was tricked, but I also know I'm not innocent. I should have stopped the second I realized what was happening. I never thought of myself as a cheater, but now I know how weak I am. Story 15. I am ashamed to be my husband's wife. My husband and I have been married for a couple of years now, and we're both in our early 30s. Our relationship has always been full of love, built on a foundation of deep friendship, passion, and companionship. We've shared everything, good and bad, and I honestly couldn't have asked for a better person to spend the rest of my life with. Last year, I made a terrible mistake. I cheated on him, and it was a one-time lapse in judgment. There was no excuse. I wasn't drunk, nor was I under any influence. I just made a poor decision, one I regret deeply. I still don't know what went through my head when I did it. For about a month, I kept it to myself, but my husband began to notice a shift in my mood and demeanor. I became distant, withdrawn, and depressed, consumed by guilt in a way I've never experienced before. It was so overwhelming that I knew I couldn't carry the burden any longer. I eventually broke down and confessed everything to him, not because I planned to tell him, but because I knew I couldn't keep it inside without it slowly destroying me. That evening, I sat him down tearfully in our dimly lit living room, the TV on but muted. When I told him, I saw his face change from its usual warmth to a pale, blank expression. It was like watching someone's heart break in real time, and to be honest, a part of me felt like it broke with him. My husband is the kindest, most soft-hearted person I know. He's jolly and compassionate, the type of person who internalizes hurt instead of expressing it. When I told him what I had done, he didn't get angry. He didn't yell, even though he had every right to. In fact, if he had, I probably would have accepted it without resistance. But he didn't. At first, he didn't believe me. But as the truth sank in, the tears started. We sat together that night, side by side, just crying. He asked questions, and I answered, offering apologies after every explanation. We didn't sleep that night. I ended up on the couch, the first time in our marriage I slept away from him. The next morning, he left for work without a word. I expected him to leave me. In my mind, I was already preparing for divorce. But then, one night, we sat at the dinner table in silence, not speaking a word. Finally, I asked him if he was going to leave me. What he said next struck me deeply. He told me that, irrationally, he wanted to hate me so badly, but couldn't find it in himself to do so. He said he's never loved anyone as much as he loves me, and that it's just not in his nature to hate. He said he didn't want to be a statistic, to be another failed marriage. I broke down in tears after hearing that. Things are slowly starting to improve, but I won't lie, it's not the same. We're not the same couple, the best friends we used to be. I can tell when he's going through the motions, like when he does the dishes, but looks lost in thought. I don't know if he feels it, but I often feel a sense of awkwardness between us, and it breaks my heart. We've always been an unconventional couple. He's the nerdy, introverted type who comes alive around me. I'm the bubbly, excitable one who laughs at his corny jokes. When he falls in love, he falls deeply, and I was the one he fell for. And then I betrayed him. I feel so ashamed to call myself his wife. He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve to have his trust shattered, his masculinity questioned, or the unhappiness that my actions have caused. He doesn't deserve any of this, and yet he's chosen to stay by my side. For that reason, despite everything, my love for him has only grown stronger. But at the same time, I'm so ashamed to be his wife that words can't fully express it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.